What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman podcast, where I have go-in conversations with fabulous people because I love when people share their story. And I believe that three things happen when people share their story. We learn from them and about them. We are inspired by them, and we connect. And in that connection, I believe that community happens. And I love to say, not only do I say go win, I say community wins. And I truly believe that. And that's the reason I love to get people like my friend Bryson Baker in so we can talk about his story, just have a conversation about all the awesome things that he is doing. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, he's going to try to downplay his coolness, his style, his entrepreneurship. This guy's in theater. He's in barber school and owns a barber shop. Now, who in barber school and on a barber shop?
Yeah, well, definitely a unicorn in the order for sure. That I owned the shop first, and now I'm in barber school. So definitely a unicorn there, and a humbling experience. You know, people are used to coming into the shop and expecting a certain caliber, and I just moved to the floor yesterday, and I'm sitting there shaking with my safety razor. That guy owns it. So yeah.
So you're on the floor finally at your own shop?
No,
I'm
at the school.
Okay.
Yes, I've got many more months. So yeah.
How many hours just derailing my whole thing?
See,
but it's okay.
That's all right. I'm sorry. This is how we go, Hetty.
Yes.
You're good hype, man. I've never been on this side of the intro. It's good. I'm hyped up. I'm ready to go. 1,500 hours. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And especially for me, going part-time, even longer. So I'm playing the long road.
The cool thing, though, as an entrepreneur, if you're going to be one of the best, there's this thing of like speed, but then there's this thing of like marathon.
Yeah,
you kind of play both, and it sounds like as far as this goes, it's definitely going to be more of a marathon and not speed, and so the patience has to kick in, right?
Everything in my life,
yeah,
the marathon, yeah.
When people say, "Man, Hetty, I want to move to Guthrie," I'm always like, "Well, it's a marathon, bro. It's not. I know I probably hype it up a little bit more than what I should, but if you come, just know it's a very slow process. But we're definitely going somewhere. And if you want to come be a part of it, come on, is what I tell folks.
Well, you're contagious, Hetty. Thanks for having me, man.
No, I definitely appreciate you being on with me. Now let's talk about Instagram because your handle is J Bryson Baker. What's the J? Can you talk to me about the J? Is that your first name? I don't know. What's up?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I grew up thinking my name was John Bryson Baker. Okay. That's what my mom told me. My dad's deceased now, but he called me John Bryson growing up. My parents were divorced, so when I was with him. But when I turned 18, I got my Social Security card. Mom gave me the Social Security, you're a man now, registered to vote. Here's your Social Security card, pay your taxes. And it said J. Stop Bryson Baker, just the J, not even a period, not J initial, just the letter J. And so at that time I found out my legal name was J Bryson Baker. And so I still use John as an alias for certain forms that don't allow you to use one character first names. But yeah, my legal name is just the letter J, and I thoughtfully I passed that along to my son, that nonsense. So
did you really?
Yeah.
So he's J Jr.
Yeah, not J Jr., but he's J Baker, and then his middle name's Anson, which is a mashup of my name and my wife's name. But I passed on the nonsense.
How much
too.
cooler did you just get? Like, yeah, my name's Jay. No, just Jay. No, not Jay, just Jay.
It would be a lot cooler if I didn't have to explain that whole thing every time I said it. It'd be a lot cooler.
My son's middle name is I.
Okay.
And so you spell it AI, and it's Japanese.
Okay.
Yeah, for love. And so
he has the same issues.
He has the same issues.
It's our burden to bear.
His first name is Zell, and then his middle name is I. So he just has that all.
See, you're one of those creative dads, too. You got to give him the creative names. Okay.
I worked hard for that, though. Like, I got to name him, and then my wife named our daughter.
Okay.
And then my oldest son, he's my stepson, but he's mine. So I didn't get it. I wasn't involved in that part. But, and man, I looked for the name like forever. I wanted something unique. I didn't want him to be, like everybody else. And so, I landed on Zell because of the meaning of it is sea strength.
Okay.
And so I just think that it's cool to
See, you take the element a bit further in that you care about the meaning behind
Yeah.
it. I guess I'm a little more vain in that it just has to look and sound cool. So I can appreciate your style for sure.
Yeah, so I definitely, it took me a while. My wife probably thought I was crazy, but we worked it out. It's been really good. So
Cool.
Let's jump into this. One of the things that I love to do when I sit down with somebody is kind of get the origin, like the beginning. And I say 0 to 18. Like, tell me about Bryson 0 to 18.
Oh man. Yeah. So grew up, born and raised in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And grew up probably lower middle class. When you're a kid, you don't know what you don't know, so lower middle class. I grew up with my brother and a sister who's a half sister, but very much a whole sister. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so grew up in the same house with them and my mom, small duplex in Stillwater, shared a room with my brother who's 15 months younger than me for 16 years.
Wow.
In 2020.
Was there any fights in that?
Are you kidding me? It's weird. My brother, we have the same mom and dad. So the same DNA, is there, and we could not be more different. And so, many arguments. There will be blood for sure. But, that grew into a great friendship into adulthood. So
now, when did that kick in? When did that we're boys now? Like, that's my guy. That's what age was that?
You know what? I would probably say it didn't happen until after high school, in between kind of high school, college. My brother took a little more untraditional route. And didn't go on to college right after high school. He was a good welder. I was in band, right? FFA and band, right? So each one of us thought the other one was really weird. But when I was in college and he was kind of figuring out, which way he was going to go in life, I feel like our friendship started to grow there, in being less competitive and more friendly. So, but
that's cool.
I don't think most people have to grow up sharing a room anymore.
No, well,
a small room, smaller than this room, Hetty. Yeah,
but people do still share rooms at times, and
sure.
Just the different challenges that happens in that. But man, I think it also helps you grow closer in the sense of
Sure.
you really bond, even though it doesn't feel like you're bonding.
Yeah,
you're bonding. You know what I'm saying? So band and FFA. So my FFA story is this: I had no clue what FFA was when I was growing up.
Okay.
Then when I started speaking, I would get invited out, and so I got invited out to 4-H, and then I have a friend who's an instructor at Guthrie High School for FFA, and so then I started learning about FFA and all the different things.
As an
4-H.
adult,
as an adult,
okay.
I'm like, oh my goodness, my kids have to be in FFA because there's just so much in it, like so much goodness. And then I ended up, which is a really cool story, coaching a young lady who went on to be a national officer for FFA.
Wow.
And so she was at OSU, and then they have to sit out for a year because they travel 52 weeks in a year. Well, they travel the
FFA
whole
officers
year.
travel.
Yeah, for national.
Okay.
Then she got the opportunity to be a part of a bill that Donald Trump signed. So she has the marker in the picture.
Wow.
He gave her the marker after he signed the.
Wow.
I was like,
That's
how
pretty
cool is that?
That's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool, yeah.
So I still have one that's still in FFA. My daughter was like, I'm out. And so hopefully my son sticks with it and gets something out of it. But that's super cool. So what was middle school like for you? And then what that transition, was there a transition from middle school to high school that you remember there was any significance in that?
I love school. Mm-hmm. I love school. I loved grade school. I can still remember the people, the teachers. Middle school, I feel like especially where we're at in Stillwater is the first step into all the classes in one school. And so I remember that just being exciting. High school was cool. I like to play sports, but I also had the band crowd. I had the academic side and the physical side. And for me, it was just exploratory in nature, which is kind of how I operate now, just dabbling, trying things, meeting new people, new experiences. And so I look back at my high school days, really with fondness. I don't know about you. I'm not super friendly, close friendships with a lot of my high school friends. I'm friendly with them, but most of my closest relationships I actually made in college. So in high school, fond memories. I can think back with clarity on the fun stuff. And so, yeah, I guess that was my experience. Are you still friends with high school friends?
So my best friend in high school, we're still best friends.
I think that's cool.
He was the
I'm
best man
jealous
in my
of that. I think that's cool.
Yes.
I think that's cool.
Yes. And I still like text and stuff with high school friends. And then I live here. I graduated from Guthrie.
Gotcha.
And so
I
live
graduated
here.
from Stillwater. Even
Yeah.
though I don't live there, I'm there
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, that's
so I
true.
see my classmates.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I guess I don't hang out. Like, even though I live here,
Okay.
like, I don't hang out with the ones that I keep in contact with and touch base with. No longer live here for the most part.
Okay.
But yeah, I get that though. I think most people are like that. I think I've had some other conversations where it's like, I don't even hang out with anybody that I went to high school with. And I think that conversation came because I was talking about my son, because in high school, you can have this thing of like, you're concerned about what everybody says or what they think. And they were like, I don't even remember anybody from, like I no longer even associate with anybody.
I don't know where this came from, Hetty. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I'm not exactly sure what my high school friends would say about me. Hopefully it would be kind because I kind of was in a lot of different groups. But I remember very early, and I don't know how you teach a kid this, but I remember, and maybe there's some arrogance in this, I could give a rip what anybody thought about me. Like I don't know where that came from. It ended up being a very useful attribute to my character.
Yes.
But I desperately on one side cared what everybody thought about me, but on the other side, like I could give a rip. And I don't know. I want to be able to teach that.
Yeah. I don't know if you can. I think some of that person that I guess you can, because there's some things. So I'm more of a person who's like, I need everybody to like me. I care what they, but I work through that. Like I have that side of me, but I understand like that will kill you, and it won't allow for you to make the progress needed. But yeah, I think though too, that speaks to your willingness to go and discover, because you really don't care what people say, but at the same time, I do care. I like people, so I'm willing to go, be curious, and you're still like that today. Yeah. So you get ready to graduate. What was next for you? Did you already know that you were going to college? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I think I was probably more traditional in that way. I was not braggadocious about this because with my personality, I would have thought this was kind of nerdy, but I was really good at science. That's what I liked. I took the ACT, like all good high school kids. I actually took it on vacation. I was in California visiting some family, and I took my ACT at an all-girls Catholic high school. It was the weirdest thing. It was really weird. So,
were you just like, I need to go take the ACT?
Well, there was an opportunity to take it then, but I wanted to go on this vacation. I forget how the scheduling worked out, but I ended up taking it there. Now, it was an all-girl Catholic high school, but there were guys in there taking the test too. It was just the location. But I was good at math and science. I aced the ACT on science and reasoning. That's how my brain works. I'm like to think I'm reasonable. Other areas of the ACT I crashed and burned, but the science and reasoning I did well. And I was always very, very interested. This is kind of a flyer for you, Hetty. Very interested in human life. And so as a senior in high school, I was going to be an obstetrician.
Okay.
I wanted to be a gynecologist. I wanted to be a part of like the miracle of birth and life, and that was intriguing to me. In between, I believe, my senior year of high school and college, I got this invite to go to this program that invited kids who had an affinity for science and were interested in medicine to go to a medical school and spend about 3 weeks at the medical school, learning about it, seeing what it was like. And so I got that invitation in the mail. And as I mentioned before, lower middle class family, it was thousands of dollars to attend. I literally took that piece of paper, threw it away.
Yeah.
My grandma, God rest her soul, I don't know how this happened, saw something, maybe I didn't wad it up completely. It was in a really schwanky folder. Picked it out of the trash, and she came to me and she said, Bryson, there's a scholarship opportunity. You could, she also knew we didn't have the money, but she said, here's a scholarship. I applied for the scholarship, somehow won it. And so that summer I got to go to the University of California, Berkeley, and spend 3 weeks living in the dorms at Cal Berkeley, spending time in a cadaver lab, shadowing medical students, watching through observation windows, medical procedures. I got to meet Patch Adams, like the real Patch Adams. I came back from that. I'm going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
sealed.
it.
I'm good.
It's
Let's
done.
go.
Yes,
Let's go.
let's do
And so I started Oklahoma State in 2004 in the fall, and I was an undeclared major, but taking science courses, chemistry 1 and bio and anatomy, and studying the field in which I thought I wanted to go into.
Yeah.
And then there was kind of a little flip there. And it was my sophomore, maybe the end of my sophomore year. And my advisor calls me in and she says, Bryson, you got a lot of math and science classes. You're going to have to take some humanities. And I looked at her and I said, what's humanities? She said, like art classes, liberal studies. And I was like, oh, okay. And so she brings out this course catalog, right? Yeah, and she starts looking through these classes and she starts reading them out to me. She's like, Bryson, just pick one of these, art 1, art history 1, how to draw 1, acting 1. And I said, wait, acting 1? I had one very small experience acting in high school where the drama teacher basically begged me to audition for a Shakespeare play. I got cast in it. I still, as a small tangent, have a picture. I have it framed, and it's me at the very first rehearsal for this high school Shakespearean play in which I'm playing, I kid you not, the king of the fairies, okay? and in this picture, I'm sitting in the corner like this.
Yeah.
Like, what did I get myself into? And so when I hear my advisor in college say acting 1, I look at her and I say, you don't study acting. That's absurd. Like, you can't go to school for acting. She said, no, it's a degree. It's a field of study like engineering. And I said, that sounds like the easiest A I've ever heard of. Sign me up. Sign me up. And man, that's where everything changed. So that next semester, I still remember my classes. I was taking an English comp course, which was every freshman had to take. Then I was taking organic chemistry, physics 1, and acting 1. Those were my 4 courses. And I remember coming home at night and telling my roommates, man, school sucks. It's so hard. And they were like, yeah, physics. And I was like, no, dude, this acting class, like, it's crushing me. It's killing me. This acting class is crushing me.
He's like, physics, I got.
Yeah.
Acting is killing me.
And so then I kind of turned into a bad student and I stopped going to my physics class and just got all into the acting thing. And so
you were drawn to the harder thing and kind of started.
Hetty, it's kind of like this. It's like if you're studying math, right? You're studying these formulas and trying to evolve or arrive at some solution, right? And you do all this work and you present it to the teacher for evaluation, right? It's me shifting the focus from myself to the work.
Yeah.
Acting is the complete opposite. You are being evaluated. Your person. It is inescapable. Mm-hmm. And that was really connecting with me. It was becoming very apparent to me that as somebody who struggled with anxiety coming out of high school, I was on medication, that you can't possibly become a good actor unless you know yourself first. You can't truthfully embody the given circumstances of another human being if you don't know yours first. Yeah. And with young actors, especially, they challenge you on that to know yourself better. And that's what was rocking me. Gotcha. None of us want to deal with us, right? And so long story short, I had way too much math and science for an acting degree. So I got a Bachelor of Science degree in liberal studies, but I still had an appetite. And so I went back to OSU and got a BFA, a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Acting specifically. And then my appetite still wasn't quite quenched and went back and got my master's degree in theatrical performance. And so I'm doing that. And a big shift from the high school thought process to college.
Yeah, that's crazy. So did you ever I'm going to Hollywood, or is that completely? So I don't know the difference. So yeah. I'm going to Hollywood. No, I want to teach it.
Sure. Yeah. So you know what? It's probably very much. I remember talking to one of the coaches at Oklahoma State one time, and I asked him. I said, "Be honest with me. You got 100 guys on the team. How many of them think they're going pro?" Statistically 0, right? Yeah. But how many of them think? And I kid you not, he looked at me in the eyes. He said, Bryson, all of them. The third string deep snapper thinks he's going pro, right? That's really the same for collegiate actors. I mean, a lot of them have aspirations of that. And I think that's good. That's noble. That's motivating. And I was very much the same. Going into my graduate degree, taking on some more serious roles, really working on my craft as an actor. And at that point, that's a good question. You've done this before. Good segue.
Yeah.
I met the girl. So I met my wife working a part-time job, and that kind of changed my trajectory a little bit. At the early part of our relationship, I was acting quite a bit in roles at OSU, some small little independent films and things of that nature. And one of the things for me is acting. For me, not all actors. I know a lot of incredibly selfless actors, but for me, acting makes me selfish. It makes me selfish with my psychology, with my emotions, with my sexuality, with anything you can imagine, it makes you selfish. And I had such a hard time letting go of a character. And one of the things you should know about me is I'm a pretty positive guy.
Yeah.
And in my acting career, I loved to go after the villain role.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what I was always going for.
Yeah.
And so most of my roles, especially the ones that maybe I won scholarships for or awards for, I played the bad guy. And I had a hard time letting go of those characters. Rachel would tell you when we were dating, I would get done with a role. There was one film I worked on in particularly where I played a not so endearing guy, and I would burn my script and literally physically get sick for like 2 days.
Wow.
Like my body was like wanting to purge this character. Right. And so I met my wife. When I first met her, I told her, hey, we're going to California. And so that's what she thought we were going to do. We were going to move to California once I graduated. And over time, the Lord works in mysterious ways, right? And he started working on me through Rachel. I was very much a different person when I met her. Started to really care more about relationship, family, creating things of substance. And so I took a job at Best Buy. Worked there for a little bit. Then OSU was going to grand open the new student union, and they were going to hire somebody to manage the technology area. I applied for that job, wildly underqualified, got that. And that year, 2010, 2011, I just started thinking, okay, I'm not going to be an actor. That's okay. Like, I'm not going to be an actor. And I said, what am I going to do?
So whenever you got this OSU job as a full-time job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long did you stay in that? Because I know what you do now as far as OSU goes.
Yes. So this job I got at OSU was retail. They were wanting to, and I really shouldn't understate this, they were grand opening the new student union, and they were looking to somebody to come in and assist in the technology area where they sell computers. I came in, and really inspired by what I learned as an actor, I wanted to create something of significance. I wanted to create that character, right?
Yeah.
So I actually, for 4 years, got to build a brand called Orange Tech is what it's called. Still there today. And I was able to build that business from maybe $325,000 in annual revenue. By the time I left, we were well over maybe $2 million in revenue. And I got to learn on OSU's dime, which sounds insensitive, but I really got to learn.
Everybody's learning on somebody else's dime for the moment.
You're right. Amen. Amen. That's exactly right. And so that was a huge opportunity that really started to show me that I had a unique approach to business. And I think it's rooted in the empathetic nature of acting. Yeah. Because acting is all about how we react to our partner, not how we react. And so, so I did that at OSU for 4 years.
So talking about, so we talk about go in. Go in is being consistent and doing those right things that allow for you to achieve the wins that you define for yourself, so that you can live out your greatest story. So what I just heard you say is that you went from 325,000 to maybe over 2 million in revenue, right?
Sure.
Now that may not have been, and it may have been a win that you defined for yourself, but that's definitely a win.
Sure.
So what I would like to ask you is, in that, what were some right things that you were consistent in that you feel like allowed for y'all to go from this 325 to 2 million?
It's a great question. And of course you ask the best questions, Hetty. You know what? I think, definitely a go-win strategy I have is to make sure, and this is cliche, but it is true fundamentally, to make sure you're never the smartest person in the room. And I've been so blessed to be a part of amazing teams and create some amazing teams. And that Orange Tech's really an example of that. So when I got that job, the first thing I did was ask the people who hired me, if you weren't going to hire me, who would you have hired? And they told me about this guy, Chris Peters. And I said, well, why didn't you hire? They told me about him. Chris Peters was, his literal title at the time was Apple Creative. He had worked in aviation engineering and maintenance. He knew computers like the back of his hand. And they hired me. I had a theater degree, and I started to connect the dots. And I asked them. I said, "Did I get this job because I have a college degree?" And they said, "Yeah." They basically told me yes without saying me yes.
Yeah.
And so I said, "Would it be okay, or what do I have to do to hire him to work with me?" And they said, "We can make that happen." And so my first hire was the guy who probably should have gotten the job.
Wow.
And so him being a part of that team was a contributing part of the success of that group.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of other things involved in running a business on the day-to-day, but in terms of a go-win strategy, that's definitely one of mine. I relish being the dumbest one in the room. I really do. I really do.
No, that's good. And because when you do that, consistently put the right people around you, you have a greater chance of winning. That's the reason I love community. You know, whenever I think about the whole community wins, right? Like, let's share our stories. Let's connect. Let's learn about each other. Let's learn from one another. Let's inspire one another. Because in that community, that's where I think you can have the most success, especially if you are willing to be selfless and let the people who are better than you, like, no, you get out there. I'll be behind you, serving you in order for us to get to wherever the finish line will cross.
You just made me think of something when you said that. Do you view yourself, I'm starting to view myself more like this, and I think when I look at you, I think of this. Do you view like one of your best qualities in your ability to connect others?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like that a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I would say that if I add any value to people, it's typically me connecting them to somebody else.
And there's I'm starting to realize there's great value in that.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah. Because what happens is when you start connecting people, especially if you know where they're trying to get to, like when you know the win that they've defined for their lives, and then you say, okay, I got so-and-so, so-and-so. When they finally start making progress towards that, you're the person that, and in that, now I don't do it for selfish reasons, but there's typically a blessing that comes out of that.
Well, so I hear you. I'm like that too. When there's a connection made and I think to myself, maybe selfishly, I made that happen. That is I'm getting that dopamine hit up here. That for me, that is part of it. But I think sometimes I judge myself a little bit. You know, you see, and I don't post a ton of this, but you see me at a coffee shop with a coffee or having a cocktail at a bar. And sometimes I think in my head, are people seeing that and being like, oh, he's just having another coffee date with some dude. And they don't see the intention behind it. The intention behind it. Like, no, I've had this meeting ordained for 2 months. Yeah. And now's you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and two, let me say this too. Like, typically when I'm making a connection, I don't see any value outside of adding the value to the person when it comes to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now and oftentimes, more often than not, do I receive anything out of that outside of the satisfaction of being like, man, I connected somebody. My life mission is to help people go further better by teaching them the go-in approach. So sometimes it's not even so much that I'm teaching them the go-in approach, but just helping them go further better. Yeah. And that's by connecting them to people. So, but social media is, I don't even think about that kind of stuff. I just share my story. And there's going to be certain people who are going to be inspired by it, and there's going to be other people who are going to be turned off by it. The interesting thing is that the people who are turned off by it don't stop following you. They continue to follow. You know,
how do you deal with that? You know, I try to like be uncompromisingly positive. Yeah. And it seems to me that and I don't want to admit this, but it seems that there's people out there that just want to be upset. They want to be victims. They want to shoot down success or positivity. Sometimes I don't deal. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that?
Well, I think of the marathon. Yeah, everything's a marathon, and so sometimes to win people over, it's a marathon. And if they continue to stay connected to you in some way, even though they find themselves frustrated by you, I think there's something inside people who say, there's something about that person that I want, even though it's driving me crazy. And I pray for me as a believer that's Jesus. Like they see something in me that's positive, and I feel like there's something that God is speaking to them.
I'm playing this back and writing that down. That's
so
good. Yeah.
that's the hope, is that they see something in me, and so I'm willing to let them say whatever. And I don't get a lot of that, very rarely, but let them continue to be in whatever mode, and I just continue to be the bigger person, continue to treat them with kindness, and even add value to them. Like, how can I figure out how I can even add value to those people if I can in any such way, and that's typically by connecting them or pointing them in a direction, or even sharing sometimes their post, especially if I see that they're doing something that's good, and so
Wow. I like that.
That's the gist of it.
So when somebody's negative towards you, you double down on the
Oh,
kindness.
my wife, it drives my wife crazy. It drives my wife crazy. Like, she's like, why are you taking them donuts? I'm like, because for some reason, something's going on with them, and it's really not about me. Whatever's going on with that person is not me, because I know what I've done.
You're just going to ask them to hate the dude bringing them donuts.
That's right. That's right. Like, I always tell this story about, I got some service here in this community, and it was the wrong service. And so once I found that out, like, versus that person was disappointed or mad or whatever that it happened, I just took the whole team donuts the next day, and so whatever I can do to come back and say, you know what? Hey, don't think that I'm holding any grudge. I want to be as kind as possible, because one day I'm going to need that. Like, one day I'm going to mess up, so I want people to show me grace. And so I'm always leaning more towards the side of, like, the Bible. This is not a Christian podcast, but in a sense of, like, it's not.
Sure.
The Bible says to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. So talking about go win and being consistent and doing the right things. I want to consistently do that.
I love
the best
that.
I can.
I'm convicted by that. That's good.
So
I've heard you.
That is the goal. So now in that, it's all about customer service, connecting with clients, and you're in that arena, or connecting with your students. I know that you have every man. You're a professor, so you have students. Every man, you have customers, right? I know that you service people in weddings with their attire and different things of that nature. Sure. When you think about you being a barber, which is connected to every man, there's customers and all these things. And in that, you have some type of win that you've defined for yourself, right? I don't know what that is, but when I think about what we just finished talking about, it's all about how do we treat people the best. And those who are considered customers or clients, we definitely want to go above and beyond, because I understand that when we do that with those people, they go and tell the story of Bryson, right?
Sure.
And then those people come back and be like, I heard about your story through whatever, great haircut, or you dressed them well, whatever it may be, right?
Right.
So in all of that, let's talk about maybe a life win that you have.
Okay.
And then let's talk about a work win. And whenever you talk about your work win, you can talk about, like, I may have not communicated well exactly what you do. You can do that then. But let's talk about a life win that you have, and at least one thing that you're like, I wake up every day or every week or once a month to do this in order to get to that life win. Do you have that?
I think I do.
Okay.
I think I do. Admittedly, I don't set goals.
Okay.
Does that sound weird? It sounds weird when I say it out loud. But I don't have a list of goals. I don't at the beginning of the year set goals. In my mind, as a life goal, I know this isn't a Christian podcast, as you just said, but I'm here at the will of the Lord, and when He wants to take me out of this world, that's His call. And so my life goal is just to serve Him. Now, for me, I take that a bit further and say, well, how has He positioned me? What are my skills? And I feel like our skills are maybe similar in that I feel like He's given me a creative approach to building things, and those things in my life right now are business ventures and relationships. And so as a life goal, I want to see how many businesses, and you mentioned every man, there's a lot more up here, how many businesses I can create that add value to this planet, and how many relationships I can build. I'm 0% interested in stacking up a big pile of money or aspiring to wealth of any kind. If that comes, it's only a means to an end of doing the next thing that God puts in my way. So as a life goal, I just want to be uncompromisingly supple in my heart to what the next thing is, being open to it. some wins in my life are definitely meeting my wife. Sometimes it terrifies me to think of the person I may be without her, without her in my life.
You're like, I would be in trouble. Most men would say that.
Yeah. And so that relationship was pivotal for me and a great victory in life. You know a little bit about my wife, but she's had a health concern. That's why we moved to Oklahoma City. We had fertility issues in there. We both had issues on the fertility spectrum. And so that made it really easy to adopt and neither one of us were made to feel guilty in any way. And both of us wanted to adopt. We wanted our kid being adopted to be our first choice,
Gotcha.
Not this is what we had to do because we couldn't do it the other way. And so a great win in our life was being able to adopt our son from the hospital and his birth mom, Aaliyah, picking us to be his parents. So those are life wins, but ultimately I'm just here at the service of the Lord, and I need correction from time to time for sure. And I'm sure there's
need to be redirected.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, for sure. So in that way, I don't put too much pressure on myself I think from the outside in, when people look at me, they might say, I don't know how you feel about this word, but they say you're busy. You're real busy. Yeah. To me, I don't know about you. I hear that as a bad word. To me, I hear busy as a bad word. I would hope those closest to me know from a life perspective, I make myself available to the things that are most important to me. Yeah. If you look at my calendar, I'm intentional. So I book myself every 10 minutes if I have to. I'm intentional, but I'm intentional about the things that are important. I look at life as like we're talking about life goals, like a rag that's soaked, right? Yeah. And so like that soaked rag is me, like at birth. And if God gives me the years, by the time I'm done, I want it like bone dry. Yeah. So I just look at my day to day, not as like, this is my goal for today, but what drop can I squeeze out? Yeah. Like, where is that drop going to come from? So life wise, I mean, that's probably what I would say.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think I hear you saying is that it's not so much that you've clearly defined, and I kind of see wins and goals as a little bit different. Like, I think everybody has a win in them. Like, they see in the direction that they want to go, right?
Sure.
And so you see life in this certain way, and you're saying, one of the things I'm consistent in is I make sure that my calendar is based on my intentions. Like, the things that I want to be the most intentional about, that's what you'll see on my calendar.
You're so good at
and
that.
And because of that,
that's exactly right.
Because of that, you are able to move forward in the way that you kind of see life supposedly being for you or your family, things like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think, just to kind of help people with that, because I think so many people are super consistent in doing things in order to get to wherever that is, right? I want to be 220 pounds by June 1st, which is my birthday. I have a few things that I'm consistent in order to try to get to that 220 pounds. Work out every day, eat right.
How you doing?
Yeah, doing good at both.
All right,
Doing good at both. Learning from others. So constantly asking my brother-in-law, who eats very well, like, tell me some meals you're doing. What does that look like for you? And also learning new exercise. So I'm consistently trying to learn in order. So those are the kind of things.
Yeah.
But for the people who, like you just said, you wake up and you're intentional, and that's based on your calendar.
That's right. Yeah. I feel like I'm in therapy right now. That's good. You
I'm just clarifying, just make sure.
Well, you're clarifying it for me, and I'm the one saying it, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that the way I value time is maybe that win. How I want to be intentional.
Yeah.
My wife gave that to me, in that she had this condition that was taking her life away from her, and that just reiterated to me at a young age mortality and the value of life and time, and that we don't get it back. And so,
no, that's good. How long y'all been married?
This year will be 10 years.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
This is the 10th year?
Yeah. 2011.
Cool.
Wow.
10 years, man. That's
Hetty,
a big
what
deal.
should I do for 10-year anniversary? I gotta do something good.
Don't ask me that, because my wife may listen.
How long have you been married?
I've been married 18 years.
Okay.
Going on 18 years, yeah.
Gotcha.
2003
okay.
was when we got married. And so, yeah.
It feels like it goes fast a little bit.
It does go fast.
10 years.
Goes fast.
Yeah.
I think the hard thing about marriage is being intentional, because you start doing it more and more, it's easy to just kind of forget. I mean, you're still there. It feels good. But marriage is a very intentional thing if you want it to continue to thrive and be really fruitful, I feel like. And it's not just there.
So how do you, I feel like that's a good life conversation real quick is that, that's not an area of great victory for me right now. And in balancing, it's kind of like this tug at you, right? I don't know if you feel like this. Like when I'm at work, I'm neglecting my family. When I'm at family, I'm neglecting this call on my life for work and like negotiating those two. And my wife has come a long way from being married to a guy who works 8 to 5 to a guy who, I work 30 days in a row for 15 hours. And then I'm like, hey, let's take 2 weeks off, so, how, do you have that pull?
I think you have to have this understanding, so we're gonna go back to the Bible. I think the Bible talks about having a Sabbath day, right? Mm-hmm. And that Sabbath day is just one day, 6 days a week. The Bible is saying there's probably some work that needs to be getting done, and the Bible also talks about if you don't work, you don't eat. In every story that I read, not every story, but oftentimes when I read the Bible, and I only use the Bible because that's where I try to hold my principles from and to live life. Paul and them talked about working all day, and then at night they were doing ministry. And Jesus was always about his Father's business, right? And so in our work, I feel like that's where we get to be a light. So I get to interact with people. I get to do those things. My family, I get to be a good steward over, hopefully teaching them in these same principles that when they get older, that's how they go about doing life. Mm-hmm. Because if we get caught up in thinking our families are important, but is it the most important thing? Because this is what Jesus said. He said, who is my brother or sister? The only time that he talks about really highlights something is your wife. He says, love your wife as Christ loves the church. So I think in that love, I don't think love means I got to be taking honeymoons and vacations all the time. Love is that I'm loving her and taking care of her in the same way that God cares me. God doesn't call me and be like, hey, we're going on vacations. No, God is like, you got to get to work. Matter of fact, there's only a few of you and the harvest is plentiful. Amen. So how do we get to work? So in that, I think if God is producing love in me, joy, peace, patience, self-control, and all those things, and that's how I am navigating my relationship with my wife, will be good. I think a lot of the worldly stuff we learn and we take, and then that's what we're basing our. Yeah. Now this is just me having a conversation.
That's real. You're right. You're
right. So those are the ways that I think. I taught relationship classes for 10 years or so, and I think that's what I saw. Even with the relationships that I feel like were good and were bad, I think the missing thing was like we begin to take on the world's expectations, which aren't real, like movies and love songs and all these different things. Yeah. It's like, bro, I don't think that's the most healthy way. So
sure.
I think loving your wife as Christ loved the church, and we know what love is. It's patience. Not counting all the
record of wrongs, which is bad for us guys anyway, because I can't remember anyway.
I can't remember anything. Yeah. So in that's kind of the life, right? That's life, marriage, children, the challenges of life. The Bible again, go back to it. It says this world there will be trouble, so it's not something that's going to be easy. The Bible never says life will be easy. And then when we talk about our work, you're doing a lot of different types of work in this life. And this, can we talk about a little bit of that and maybe talk about where you're heading with that and what are some things you're doing to get down the road?
Yeah, so definitely a question I struggle with sometimes when somebody asks, what do you do? I'm sure you probably struggle with this too.
Family, my son, if I call my son up here, right, Zell!
Oh, we're doing it. Let's go.
Well, I'm here. Zell! He won't answer. FaceTime Zell. I'm sorry for screaming in the mic. I wonder what that's going to be like. I wonder if the things.
It's a FaceTime call to Zell.
We'll ask Zell. Watch, he's like, if he answers. we're FaceTiming my son right now.
Oh, he answered.
Hey, Zell. What do you tell people I do when they ask you, what does your dad do for a living?
Dad, you lagged out so bad I couldn't hear you say that.
I said, when your friends or somebody asks you, what does your dad do for a living, what do you tell them? You don't really know. It just kind of depends on what they ask you.
Yeah, he talks on the phone.
He talks on the so you totally get it. If you were to ask my 6-year-old or my wife, like it's hard to articulate. So I would probably answer it in a couple ways. What generates income so I can pay my mortgage? Teaching at OSU pays me a little bit. That's where I get my health insurance from. And then my business, Everyman, supports me as well. So we do barbering and menswear and a bunch of different things with coffee and wedding services and generosity, give back, philanthropic stuff. So those things kind of bankroll me and kind of pay the bills. All of that is a means to an end. And so this would probably be what I would view as my win on the business side. Yeah. We want to get to a point where we can create our own nonprofit that is relentlessly pursuing young boys who don't have dads in the home. That was me. I think that set me up for failure in a lot of ways. I think it sets up all young men for trouble when they don't have strong male influence in their life. And so I want to create a nonprofit that just focuses on that and then use what we've built as a business to support that and change and impact lives. So that would be the win on the business side. Everything else we do steers us to that true north, which is the mentorship of young men without dads.
Got you. So as a businessman, what would you be like? There's people listening right now. There's always those people who want to be entrepreneurs. What would you say would be hey, this is a big challenge when you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, having your own business, running your show. What would you say that big challenge is that you have to always fight?
You already gave it to us. And the more time that passes by, I'm more convicted that patience. The marathon, you got to embrace it. I'm blessed to be able to do different things with the entrepreneurship school at Oklahoma State University and be kind of close to the entrepreneurship program and hear about and be a part of student ideas and brainstorming and entrepreneurship competitions. And sometimes I think we forget, because it's so easy now to put entrepreneur on your Instagram handle, right? We forget that it's a process and it takes time. Everyman is paying me now. It just started paying me in 2018 and we started it in 2011.
Wow.
Yeah. So for 7 years, not only did we not get paid, and my wife will tell you this with gritted teeth, but we were also putting our own money into it. And so, patience. And we were uncompromising about the vision. We were committed to the process and we just trusted. We were smart. We were frugal when we needed to be. We still tried to focus on a tenet that we have as a business that's irrational generosity. Where can we keep giving back to the point that it was painful? And so, I think the win for our business is getting to a point where we can bankroll this nonprofit. I've been leaning towards calling it, I'm getting more and more into history and my family's history, and my family's Irish. And there's a word in the Irish, granathair. I just think it sounds cool, granathair. And it's from the Gaelic fatherless. And so I don't know. I'm thinking that would be maybe a good name for our nonprofit, granathair. I don't know.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking that you're going to have every in there, like every day, every father.
The way we work on it, it's called every young man in our system right now. But I don't know. Something more elevated sounds cool.
Yeah. I like that. What's inspiring you right now?
Man, Hetty, I think exactly what inspires you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and that's other people.
Yeah.
Hearing other people's stories, engaging with other people who are doing cool stuff. That mentality of never the smartest person in the room, and seeking out, well, who's the smartest? Who's doing this better than I am? Even on the philanthropy side, like who's giving back and investing in their communities like you are better than I am, and being inspired by them.
That's good. How can people follow you?
Oh, good grief. I'm on Instagram personally, J Bryson Baker, that name. So you can check me out there. And I happy to respond to all comments, questions. I want to engage. So
That's good. That's good. Man, I appreciate you being on here with me.
Blessing.
Man, we might have to do a round 2 and 3 and 4, man. 'Cause
Let's
so
do
much.
it.
I think we almost could just do so we could do every man. We could do. I would love to dive more into being a professor, what that looks like, interacting with the students. Being a father. There's
I am in this weird situation where I'm at barber school as a student, and then I leave for 2 hours as a professor and come back as a student. But happy to be here. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I listen to all the podcasts, and I'm always inspired. So.
I appreciate you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman podcast. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go win. Yes.